Hey there. Let's talk alignment and leveling up really quickly. Somebody responded to an article that I had written today. She gave me a thank you and she said, "Thank you. You could have left the war zone of codependency, but you chose to stay behind and help the rest of us out of that space." And I want to clarify that for a second, because true growth and true perspective is never about staying behind. So alignment, I am in my alignment. I am with my soul's journey that it has chosen to be on the earth for. And I want to help you get to that place today, because you are an energy channel. Your specific signature in the world is an energy channel. And when you are attuned to the channel that you originally intended to come in sounding like, feeling like, hearing like, when you go to that place in your body, in your DNA, and you can create and change your DNA, which I want to help you do today, when you are on your channel, you are in alignment. So the way that my mind sees that is like this, like God itself is a wheel, so to speak. And my truth is I came in to resonate at this particular place on the wheel. This is my point of perspective. And the great thing about your point of perspective is you can be aligned in a pretty egoic, like kind of like dense scenario. And this is where most people, instead of actually staying aligned, they make a choice that like knocks them on their ass off of their alignment, and then it feels all staticky and they can't find a way to get back to themselves, and they keep making choices based on that original choice which already knocked them out of their alignment. And when we do that, we basically are digging our own grave in humanity. And the great thing about digging your own grave is that there's a stopping point. Like you could stop digging your grave and just turn around and move to the place of your specific channel. You can move on the wheel back to your home of alignment. So when you venture out of territory that is not your territory, not where you're supposed to be, it feels staticky. It feels like, you keep making choices that aren't working out. You're digging your own grave. The thing is that you can just stop. If it's you're lying, if it's you're in a relationship that you know that you're not actually showing up to, if it's that you're in a job that you hate and it's really out of alignment for you, the great thing is you can just stop right now. But the thing about leveling up in your alignment is that when you look up, there's so many places that you can go. So the point that I want to drive home in this reality is that when you level up, you get points of perspective of why you've come into this life at this time, why you chose the parents that you chose, what specific signature you came to resonate and show up as. And if you are an empath, that is vital information. And if you are a codependent, it's vital information. But more so specifically, like we're all empathic, but if you identify as an empath, it is essential that you get that you don't show up to the world unless you're showing up to this alignment. So when we're constantly going, well, I feel her feeling that, and oh my God, I got to help her. Here's the classic codependent. I got to help her make sure she doesn't feel that so I can feel safe, because it's not safe to feel what she's feeling. And we both feel uncomfortable because she's feeling this way. And I know how she's feeling, so I can let her know that I know, and then I can help her. And that is no different, basically, in energetics than digging our grave the way some people dig their graves in life and get far off of their alignment, and it takes them years to get back to where they were before they jumped ship on their own, basically, signature. So you have a very specific signature in the sky, and it is written in the blueprints of your DNA. So I want you to hear me say this and take it to heart. Your signature is encoded in a light frequency in your DNA. So there was a study done where somebody took a single molecule, and if you think of all of the molecules in your body, all of the cells in your body, we have about 100 trillion cells in our body that we even know of. And it's believed that 92 trillion of them are actually ours. Other things are other things growing on us, are in us. So he took one single molecule of DNA and used, I don't know what he used, something to catch light. And when he splattered that DNA, what came out was 1,000 photons. And photons are the stuff of light. So I talk a lot about epigenetics. I've used epigenetics and the thought of that to heal myself, and the belief in that and the deep practice of that to heal myself. And what epigenetics says is that we can change our nature based on nurturing ourselves differently. So if your DNA is a blueprint signature that is being emanated out into the world, and you want to change it, you can change it. because that implies that this fluff stuff of life, like, oh, we're light bodies, focus on the light or whatever, that's great. But here's the thing. Even in the dark, the voids of the dark are necessary to make up the structure of the light, what is emanating. So, we have the potential to rewire our DNA, to change our blueprint by basically telling our blueprint what to be and then following suit by acting upon what we now choose. And then we become the thing that we have chosen. So one way for sure to rewire your DNA, if you have come from a past that feels traumatizing, it feels torturous, it feels like hell, and you feel like other people have forced you into being knocked off of your alignment, because that's the nature of an empath, right? It's like, oh, well, I had to do that because I need to help them or whatever. And true empathy is staying in alignment, knowing that your alignment, what you feel, the vibrational signature of what you're emanating, is more powerful than all of the feelings around you. This is the workings of Jesus Christ, the ultimate empath, okay? So holding space in that way for yourself first is the work of a true empath. And the way that we can harness a new reality, and this again, it can sound fluffy to you or whatever, let it, but use it if you are really interested in changing your wiring and the signature that you're putting out there. So I was not raised by somebody who was warm, loving, always showed up. I had the corporate mother, the absent father, and I deeply longed for my absent father because he was the philosophical one, and my mom was like getting shit done constantly, like she was worker bee, and neither of that was what I wanted, and all I wanted was my parents to be home and like love me and protect me. And it's amazing because over the years of doing this work, I now have grown into the woman that was the child who was told I was loved, who was told that I am beautiful, who was told I'm worthy. And none of that actually happened in my life, but I don't fault my parents for it. What I've done is re-nurtured myself by using their images, their faces, remothering myself. When I tuck myself into bed at night, that was a big thing for me. I was probably 11 years old when I realized, it was the first time I realized that it made my dad uncomfortable that I told him I loved him and that he had never said it back. And before then I would just say it. And that something clicked that night where I was like, wow, not only has he never said it back, he's actually made uncomfortable by it. So I have literally gone into meditative places where I envisioned the person I was before the world told me who I was not supposed to be. And my truth is, had I have had all of those things for me, I probably wouldn't have had kids, especially young. I would have probably been a scientist. I was the kid who was blowing, give me the vinegar and the baking soda, let me see what things do. And I think that comes from a lot of past life stuff, which I think that when you get to a place of expansive, open alignment, you really understand why you've come and funneled into this particular space. But if you want to get out all of the stories that make this space in your physical body inhabitable, you can. And one way to do that is to literally tell yourself a new story about the trauma, about the people that raised you. And people could say this is denial. I'm not saying deny the reality. I'm saying create your own new reality. Yes, those things had an effect on you, and look at where it brought you. It brought you to a resilient place where you're watching this because you're curious. It brought you to a place where you know that all of the answers haven't been solved, and you are going to be the one to solve them because they can only be solved within you. So across the board, you've survived, dude. You're a survivor, okay? So yes, sure, shitty things happened, and you can recreate the stories that how those shitty things affected you to get back to a place where you were before they ever affected you. So and the easiest way, I guess, to do this would be to, whether you take this literally or figuratively, both are equally valuable in my opinion. If you consider the possibility of a parallel universe where you actually are living in another universe as you, exactly like you are right now, but you had all of the things that you didn't get growing up. You had the loving parents, you had the money, you had the school, you had good teachers who saw you, you didn't have the bullies, you grew up in a community who, like, you know, where you were taught how to actually live on the earth instead of try to escape it constantly. Say you're living on that earth, you had all of the things that you think you didn't get this time. What does that feel like? Who do you feel like? And when you feel it deeply, when you go, wow, damn, that's interesting, like, that's who I would be if my dad would have told me he loved me, or if my mom would have tucked me in at night, or like if I would have had a stay-at-home parent, or if I would have had somebody who was like, you know, kind and used, you know, a direction instead of punishment. When you really can harness who you'd be if you had all of the things that you think that you want, you can vibrate at that frequency because it's so palpable that you go, wow, like that's me. That feels me turned on. And that's you turning on. And that turn on is you tapping into the true signature of your alignment. And when you, that's why, like, I tell my clients, like, never force yourself not to be turned on. Like, love who you love. Be turned on by who you're turned on by. It doesn't mean you have to have sex with them. It doesn't mean you have to be friends with them. It doesn't mean you have to like them. But when you feel turned on, it's because something in you is, that's a reflection of my alignment. That's interesting. This person is reflecting something to me that's in nature with my truth. So, yeah, I think that's all I really wanted to say, that you can, and if you understand that you are a light body, and that light body is basically like an emanation of a shape or a vibration or whatever you want it to be, that other people feel and that you feel also, you have the potential to pull in from places where you might or might not be living in the universe also. Like when we are, because I believe that God is the little pea that would be pulled back together from the Big Bang, like all of those spaces is the pea. All of the empty space in between, all of the empty space between all of your cells, all of that is just distance on the way to God. And when God pulls back into himself, itself, that's when we will be returned to our oneness. And in my perspective, in the way that we can get there the easiest and quickest in our lives is to level up by doing this work of, you know, I'm going to rewrite my story. Literally in my bones, in my DNA, I'm going to rewrite my story. And rewriting that story gives you an offering to level up. And then you can look down and go, I was really pinched in perspective for a while. I thought I knew a lot of shit, and like, wow, now I really can see it. Like now, you know, clarity became expansive clarity, not just like my clarity. It became like possible to see clarity, to see mental thoughts, to see patterns in people and be like, you know, as an empath, I can now, which is so important. And this is what I believe also Jesus had it locked down, the compassion part, because I, as an empath, was not capable of separating myself from other people's feelings. I was in them, I stayed in them until I brought them out. And now I can have compassion for them and not go into those spaces. So having compassion for yourself and for your perspective, when you level up and you can look down and see it and go like, wow, that's really like, I could go anywhere up. Right? Like there's so many places to go in the expanse of this, like you're spoke on the wheel, so to speak. But when you're digging your own grave, there's a stopping point. You can just stop and look in the other direction and get back to the vibration of your chosen alignment before you came into the planet. So you know when you're there, when you're aligned, when you feel here, when here becomes habitable, when you're not afraid to see what is, to see life the way that it is, and be okay with this, the way it's become, and you know yourself in it, and you know your resilience through it. So I really want you to address yourself in the possibility, if you're really struggling with a past that is haunting you today, to rewrite that past and envision it as if it is current present day on a different parallel universe, and tap into who you are there, given all of the resources that you wanted here, and harness the shit out of that and pull it right in here and ask your body to receive it and let it stay. Okay? I hope that this was helpful. I am Stacy Hoch. You probably know that already. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.